Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Adi, and today we have another team report from the North American International Championships, and we have maybe the coolest team of the entire tournament. And I say that as someone who ran a pretty cool team this tournament. We have we have Mr. Overquill himself. We have Henry Rich. How you doing?
Hey, doing good, man.
It's great to have you. Yeah,
It's great to be here. It was definitely a fun team and a very fun tournament. Getting to face off against you for the first time was really cool as well.
yeah. Um, but so I guess for those who don't know you, you've been around for a while playing VGC, but you haven't been stateside for as long, so we haven't seen you. We haven't seen you in North America as much. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I've been playing since 2015. My first tournament was Sydney Regionals back then. Um, I thought I knew what I was doing when I came into it, but turns out I very much didn't. My first tournament, I went in not knowing EVs, IVs, any of that stuff. But then I had a really good time and kind of just wanted to meet more people that had the same interests. But yeah, no, it took me a while to get my first cut. 2017 Sydney Regionals was when I got my first top cut. Um, but yeah, and then after that, it was just more regionals. Eventually, getting to come over to the States, come over to Europe, and play these massive tournaments that we never really got back home until this year. But even then, like generally, we get a couple hundred now compared to the 800 or 900 that we see over here. So the big tournaments have been a lot of fun, but no, it's been really cool lately.
Yeah, and I started playing in 2017, so I've always seen you as one of the top Australian players. So it's been really cool to it was really cool to actually get to play against you, and that's part of the cool things about these international championships is you get to play people from all over the world using all sorts of weird stuff, including in this case, including an overquill. So I got to hear about this. How did you come about with this team? What was your team building process like?
So there's a couple things with it. Just before the format started, when people were kind of testing things out, I had a friend, Jono, from the UK, who was running a Kyogre Muck team because he was like, "Oh yeah, Muck like perfectly answers Kali Shadow, Kali Ice, Lunala, all that stuff that like people were expecting to be popular." Um, but we didn't really think the Muck would be too consistent into it. And then a couple of weeks later, one of my friends asked me to build them a Kyogre team. And at the time, I was just pretty much solely looking into Lunala. So I had a little bit of a look into Kyogre, thought back to the market and was like, yeah, Overcool makes sense and could be a lot of fun. Because I wasn't going to play indie, they wanted to use it. So I had a couple of friends use it there. We at the time, I believe we used like a Raging Bolt Amoonguss variant with Incin. And that did well, but it's not something I really looked at again until after LA regionals. I kind of moved away from the Lunala Sci Spam stuff that I used there and wanted to be something that, at the time, I wanted to be a bit more consistent, which Kyogre Water Spout is probably one of the most consistent moves that you can get in the game when it comes to the restricteds, although there's a lot of really powerful, accurate spread moves now. Um, I was kind of hesitant towards it, but then your stuff from LA, the Cali Shadow, Clefairy, all that sort of thing started popping up massively after you used it. The Overquill is just insanely good into that. Like Gunk Shot, even Intimidated. Like you've got the Terra Poison, it's taking out Clefairy. Callies were all running Terra Fairy, and the -1 Gunk Shot picks them up, which came in very handy at NAIC. I had a bunch of people just kind of lead Incineroar into the Overquill stuff to try to get it intimidated, and then Terra the Cali to kind of support it. But at -1, the Cali just drops when it terrors, and if it doesn't terror, it'll die to a crunch. But yeah, it just covers that so well. And then the having Acid Spray, being able to support Kyogre like that is just mental.
Yeah, the poison dark typing is so good into that team specifically, and the fact that it gets so fast with Swift Swim, it's super cool. I think on Top Takes we were trying to name off all the poison dark types. You got Muck and you got Overcloak. Can you name the last one? Last two. Sorry.
Oh god, last two. Um, I don't think I can. Poison Dark.
didn't consider all your
Poison Dark.
poison
It
dark
wouldn't.
options. Um,
I didn't know. It's not. Grafia is not, is it? It's normal type, isn't it?
No, that's a normal.
I don't think I can name them.
No, it's there was Stunky, and there's Drapion. And I think
Oh, of course.
yeah, but
Wait, which one? You versed a
I
Stuntank?
didn't face one, but I saw one of the Emerizian brothers were running was running Stunky at the event.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. But yeah, the poison dark typing is actually really strong right now. So I remember I saw we were talking about it. We played I think round 8, and we were talking about it right before round 8. We ran into each other, and I was telling you about Electabuzz, and you telling me about Overquill. It's like, dang,
Mm.
that sounds pretty strong. So of course I was not excited to see it in action nearly as much. But yeah, so you said that you had a friend who wanted to build Kyogre, and then when you started building it out, you realized how powerful it was. Tell me about the rest of the team and how you ended up putting all these pieces together.
So this team in particular started off as a tail room team. So I originally didn't have the Overquill or the Landorus there. I had P2 and Ursaluna, just the regular Ursaluna, just for kind of that mode. But when it came to testing it, like I absolutely loved the Volcarona, Kyogre, and the Tornadus. But the Ursaluna and P2 mode just wasn't consistent. It didn't really mesh too well with everything else there. And I think I was going to drop the team and try to adapt my Lunala team from LA a bit. But the friend that I originally built the Overquill team for was like I think you should probably try the Overquill on there and see. Like, it looks like it'd be fun. It looks like it'd be cool. So I did that, and then the Scarflando was just a slap on for the Miraidon teams. Um, and it just worked phenomenally. I think my biggest issue by far with it at NASA and in practice was I hated clicking Hydro Pump and Gunshot. It's like obviously very inaccurate. Um, it's super stressful, and because they probably are the two best moves on the team, a lot of the time, if you want to be winning your games, you do need to click them. Um, so the night before NAIC, I messaged one of my group chats, and I was like, guys, I don't think I can use the Overquill. I think I've got to go back to Lunala, and one of them, Lewis, actually spent about I think 2 hours just playing matchup after matchup after matchup with me until I was comfortable enough with each matchup that outweighed the discomfort of the moves. So,
Mhm.
but
And
no,
yeah, we see it time and time again in these restricted formats that the power level is so high, especially for your non-restricted Pokemon to do something. You really need to be willing to sometimes click inaccurate moves. And then Kyogre, I think if you're using Kyogre, you're opting into using either Origin Pulse or Hydro Pump, and kind of opting into that volatility, right?
absolutely. And one of the reasons I kind of went like I felt like I had to go Hydro Pump instead of Origin Pulse because doubling up on the spread moves being your big damage. There's so much wide guard at the moment with like things like Zamazenta, Mienshao, people wanting just surprise Kali Shadow Lancers, plus all the best moves from all the best Pokemon are pretty much spread 100% accurate, like base 120. So I figured that's kind of something that people are going to be very prepared for, which I don't really want my restricted Pokemon to be pretty heavily answered like that. Plus Hydro Pump, like if they catch a wide guard wrong, or even just in general, it picks up so many KOs. The amount of times like I'm in front of a Rillaboom, they've got something next to it that wants to set up, and they're threatening Grassy Glide to stop Water Spouts, and just going for a Hydro Pump and dropping whatever's next to it as it sets up. It came in really crucial, especially in day 2 as well. Just the sheer amount of damage the single target water move does.
Mhm. And so I guess we're talking about Kyogre. So let's talk about the individual Pokemon that you have. And so you have a pretty interesting EV spread on the Kyogre, where you're not max speed, you got a decent amount of bulk, and then you also chose to run Terra Ghost Mystic Water. So tell me about some of those choices.
So having the Overquill, I think on the team, the Overquill is obviously the first thing that people really look at. They see Life Orb, they see Terra Poison. Even if they don't really know what it does, they know what Gunk Shot does, so they want to kind of mitigate its output if they can with things like Intimidate, which I think really the only Intimidate user we see, other than things like Geo's Gyarados, which is I think very niche and very him, is Incineroar. And Kyogre teams in general, especially as hyper offensive as this one likes to go when I go the Kyogre mode, Doesn't really want to be faked out. Doesn't want to have to worry about that. So the Terry Ghost is for two things. It's for the fake out from Insin. But the other big thing is Zamazenta. Zamazenta's only real way to touch Kyogre is to body press, and between Volcarona getting a burn off of it on it and just not being able to hit it with the body press, only with heavy slams, Kyogre just sits in front of the Zamazenta teams and picks off everything, and it's been great. And the speed on Kyogre 124 is a bit odd, but with the Kali Ice teams picking up in popularity, um, a lot of them I've noticed have been running max speed Insin. That way they can get taunts off on other Insin, they can get really quick knockoffs off and that sort of thing. And before I had the speed on it, I was getting knocked off a lot, which when I'm Terra Ghost and want the power from Mystic Water is really bad. But it actually caught a lot of people off guard at NAIC because they see this sort of team. They're like, okay, it wants bulk because Kyogre is probably the biggest thing I have into Trick Room as well. But the speed on it really caught people off guard.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. That is the speed number to hit, especially the 124 with those max speed instants coming around. And yeah, so talk me through the rest of the Pokemon and why you've trained them the way you have.
Yeah, so Volcarona, I'm actually really happy with because, like I said before, it was part of the Zamazenta matchup. It was there to help against Kali Ice and Zamazenta. If they went Terrafire, obviously I couldn't Will-O-Wisp, but with the Kyogre there, that's fine. But I kind of made a call going into NAIC that Smeagol would be pretty popular, or like at least very good. The two things I was really scared of going into NAIC were Weezing and Smeagol. Weezing, I kind of accepted that if it was a well played Kali Shadow Weezing, I'd just be in trouble. But Smeagol, I made sure the Volcarona hit 140, so catching the Smeagol by one speed point, so I could either redirect things like Spore or just get quick hits off into it if I needed to. But I think the big one was most of them would go either Terra Grass or Terra Ghost, so I wanted to be able to side Will-O-Wisp. And I think I've earthed 3 Kali Ice Smeagol, including yourself
Including me.
and including you. And then the Smeagol Kali Shadow in top 8, which wasn't as good for Volcarona, but into the Kali Ice stuff with Smeagol, it was really good. Tornadus is just, I think Tornadus Kyogre has been going around since as long as I can remember in restricted formats. At Los Angeles, I ran Focus Sash and just went max speed, max burst attack. It was really good because back then people were still using stuff like you'd see the odd Ogerpon. It was good just to get that speed into other things, and I had Protect instead of Taunt. But for anyone who saw my stream match at LA, one of the downsides to it was not having that bulk meant that things like Kali Shadow can get free boosts off it, free sweeps after that, and it caused me a lot of trouble. So I kind of wanted to go more bulky with Terra Dark just so that I wouldn't get taunted because Rain Dance is really important on this team as well. Taunted from Prankster anyway. But the Covert Cloak and the Taunt just came along that. Taunt being really good again into things like Smeagol, Amoonguss, all that sort of thing. Although I didn't actually verse that many Amoonguss throughout the tournament. The Rillaboom. The Rillaboom I straight up stole from my friend Jamie Keane. He was running this really cool Koraidon team for, I believe it was Stockholm, and he did really well with that. And he's always who I go for when it comes to more intricate spreads. But yeah, so the Rillaboom took a lot of really nice hits, but I think the big thing was just being able to set up that grassy terrain against Miraidon and come in as a quicker fake out, because there's not always going to be a Terra Ghost coming out from the Kyogre. There's not always going to be like the speed control turn 1. Like fake out is still really important in this format, even if it's not from something like Insin. The pivot was really good as well. It was kind of my plan with Rillaboom against late game Trick Rooms. So if I'm trying to stall it out, or like they're gonna, because generally they're taking out the Volcarona reasonably early because they need to focus it down. In Trick Room, it's just causing too much havoc with Redirection and Will-O-Wisp. So then being able to bring in the Rillaboom and fake out, stall out a few more turns is really important. But I think the Landorus was also a lot of fun. I think I only versed two Miraidon throughout the tournament, but Miraidon and had been picking up with Ditto on the team, which a lot of people seem to use that when they saw the Landorus. I originally had Weather Ball on the Landorus so that I could get a big water type moves off onto other Lando and just things in general. But I found that often that ended up being used against me when the Ditto came in. So what I ended up doing was going for the Grass Knot because I realized at that point against most of the Miraidon teams, Z's was an exception. Once I came up against Z's team, I struggled a lot to come up with an answer for the Talonflame Sheer Power, but as long as I can match speed control with the Whimsicott or call if the Farigiraf is going to be there, even if they copy my Landorus or switch out to try to get like a flying immunity, aside from the Ditto copying my Landorus, those teams generally don't have a ground immunity. So I could just either Earth Power or Sandsear Storm, and the Terra Ground just guarantees like stuff like AV Bolt, like the bulky stuff goes down when I need to. But yeah, it was a lot of here and there on the team, a lot of last minute changes. I think the night before at like 1 a.m. Before NAIC, I had Thunder on the Kyogre and Struggle Bug over Protect and Ice Beam. It just made the swaps just because a gut feeling told me that it was the right way to go, and like it absolutely paid off, which I'm really happy about.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think Rajan suggested Choice Scarf Landorus in before NAIC on one of his teams, and I was like, that can't be good. You're missing out on so much damage. And then of course, I'll take the L on that one. Here it is in top 8 of NAIC. So yeah, definitely super cool, really cool speed tier too, right? It's a little bit faster than Choice Scarf Urshifu as well. Choice Scarf Chiyu is just floating around, so it's a really, really nice Pokemon to have a Choice Scarf right now.
I made the call on that one to go Modest because if people want to go Chiyu, Timid Scarf Chiyu, sorry, the Kyogre means that their fire moves aren't really doing enough, and Dark Pulse isn't doing enough to anything without like a Specs boost, or at least like the modest boost. And most Urshi I've seen have just been wanting to go for that pure damage. So I didn't come across any Scarf Pokemon that outsped Landorus, which was nice.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't be surprised to see that in the future, just to cover a few more of those faster options.
Yeah. And then last but not least is the Overquill. I think that the EV spread is pretty self-explanatory here, but yeah, tell me about Overquill. Not really a Pokemon that has a standard set. Tell me about some of the options that you thought through and why you came to the conclusion that this is the right set to run.
Yeah, so I had a couple of people message me about it afterwards, and a lot of people were saying like, why not Intimidate? Why not running like Icy Wind support, that sort of thing, Aqua Jet or like Terra Water with Liquidation to take advantage of the Kyogre's Rain. I kind of thought about all of these options beforehand. Probably the one that I would have swapped to if I had the chance would have been, if I'd had the foresight, would have been Acid Spread or Icy Wind. But the Swift Swim was just so good, and in regards to like kind of going that Terra Water Liquidation Aqua Jet route, Kyogre is, aside from probably Urshifu, the best water type sweeper in the game. I didn't really feel I needed another one, especially when Cali, Shadow, and Ice are both there. You've got all the fairy terrors and the supportive fairies like Clefairy. Gunk Shot is, as I found out, a ridiculous move. I played the Mirror in round 7, or 8.
Yep.
Yeah, round 7, where I played Mateo the Kyogre Mirror, and both games, the end game was Kyogre Serena versus Overquill plus X. And both games just Terra Poison, Gunk Shot, one shot the Kyogre, and just carried me through that mirror. And yeah, the Overquill helps into like obviously the mirror, the Cali Shadow stuff, being able to pick up one-hit KOs on things like Urshifu Water, Miraidon, depending on the bulk. Most of the choice specs ones just drop to it. Opposing Kyogre, the damage was just ridiculous, and I don't think, like obviously, being a very niche Pokemon, no one knew their calcs for Overquill, especially not day one. And yeah, it was just getting some mental KOs left and right, and what I thought was probably going to be my biggest downfall in the Gunk Shots potentially missing, and maybe just being not the best call for an athlete. Overquill carried me through the entire tournament.
That's awesome to hear. That's gonna be the thumbnail. In fact, Overquill carried me throughout the tournament. Um, so yeah, with that, let's talk about how to play the team. I think definitely people are going to want to try this out themselves. So talk me through. And you said you grinded out a bunch of matchups the night before the tournament. Tell me about do you have like common leads or common game plans that you go for, or did you have sort of set lines into different types of teams that you expected to face?
I the way I play, I kind of, because a lot of teams don't necessarily have the same kind of text, same support Pokemon, all that sort of thing. I try to have like a general plan into a basic core, but have a good amount of flexibility behind it. Cali Shadow was definitely one of the ones that I had just a straight game plan of Kyogre, Overquill, because whether they're leading fake out support, redirection, whatever it is, it struggles so hard into the combination of either like Terra Poison, Gunk Shots, Crunches, Water Spouts, Hydro Pumps. When I talk about the run later, explain some of that. But yeah, the Cali Shadow stuff. It depends on what's in the back as well, because like a lot of them have like Mienshao, Rillaboom, that sort of thing, which Volcarona comes in really nicely too. So with that, it's leading Kyogre, Overquill, and then definitely Tornadus in the back for, it's kind of that speed control. And then just picking, are they more kind of physically oriented when it comes to the other Pokemon that want to dish out damage? Or does it need kind of the support, a bit more support into the Calyrex with the AV Rilla? The mirror, like the Overquill, like I said, the Overquill ended up being just so much more important than I thought. The mirror Overquill was huge. It's basically match speed control, keep the Rillaboom around to just kind of as that safe switch in, supporting things, and let Overquill just clean up. What else we got common? Cali Ice, the stuff that you brought. Volcarona was just so important in that. Cali Ice doesn't really want to sit in front of Kyogre without its Terra. And Volcarona just means that if they're not Terra Fire, if they're trying to get that defensive Terra, you're not really going to make much ground because you're going to be burned. The Kyogres, if I don't need to Terra Ghost, which a lot of the time I did, because most of the Cali Ice teams that I versed had either Smeagol, I think almost every single one I versed had Annihilate, which kind of forced me to Terra Ghost. But yeah, like having those, I almost never brought Tornadus and Landorus to the Calyrex matchups just because they're free boosts for the Cali, and even when burned, if it starts getting those boosts up, that damage is back up, and especially if I'm Terra Ghost, like that damage just adds up way too much and way too quickly. So having Kyogre and Volcarona with the Rilla and the Overquill in the back is really important in those. Because even out of rain, generally, if you've gone down to that late stage Trick Room, they usually don't have something like the Urshifu. And Overquill can outspeed with or without rain and get off some huge crunches and Gunk Shots.
And then I think the other big two are probably Miraidon and Terapagos, if you have plans into those.
True. Terapagos was kind of an interesting one. It was one of the ones that I was a bit concerned about going into the tournament. I was a bit shaky on the matchup. But when I was grinding out those games the night before, I realized just kind of how important specifically the Kyogre and the Overqwil are in that matchup. Water spout damage adds up, whether it's against the Calm Mind or the spec set, even if they get rid of rain. Like, I heard of a couple Terra Water specs Kyogre that were there and just one-shotting Terapagos even without the rain. So I really learned to utilize the water spouts where I could, but it was really the gunk shot that did it for me. I know day 2 I versed some Terapagos and like even burned the Overcool when clicking Terra Poison Gunk Shot was doing like 60-70% to the Terapagos, and that big physical damage was really important because again they didn't really want to bring in Sim because Kyogre's bulky enough that if I do need to Terra, it's gonna take a few hits from the Terapagos, even if it's super effective from the Terra Starstorm once I Terra. But like most of the time, it was just Overqwil carrying through that. So like keeping the speed control against Terapagos is really important, and having Rillaboom there, it was really kind of a bit odd. Throughout the tournament and leading up to the tournament, I found that most Terapagos in a situation where they're sitting in front of Rillaboom, the ones without Covert Cloak, tended to not protect on fake outs, which I don't know. I haven't played much Terapagos myself. I don't know if there's a specific reasoning behind that, but the Rillaboom being able to just switch in safely, take those special hits, pivot out, and get stuff like the Overcool back out into the field was really important in the Terapagos matchups. And then, yeah, Miraidon was, until I got absolutely destroyed day 2 by Z, the Landorus just absolutely spore through those teams, being able to match speed control with the Whimsicott. Nothing on the team other than the Whimsicott really, on the standard team, resisted the ground moves. So like Earth Power was doing 50 plus to the Farigiraf on switch in, otherwise the Miraidon's just going down. Ursaluna Blood Moon really doesn't want to be in front of those, and even then like I can also start clicking like the Terra Ground Sand Steers, because I've got multiple ways to get rain up on the team and make that accurate. And yeah, it was huge. Changing to Grass Knot was just so then opposing Ditto couldn't copy my Landorus and then just start taking KOs on it. I know one point in day 1, I had to make the call of if Kyogre should be in the lead instead because of like they've got the Iron Hands, the Farigiraf, and that sort of thing. Like the amount of times as well, it's really interesting because as the Miraidon players, especially with the choice specs, they've got to be very kind of calculated with what they do. What are they volt switching? Are they going to Terra Electric, Electro Drift, that sort of thing? So there are a lot of times where, because the hyper offensive modes happen, if I call it wrong and go for the Kyogre Tornadus and hit the Miraidon lead, I think throughout the tournament, I led Kyogre into a combination of Rillaboom, Miraidon, Raging Bolt, and that sort of thing, turn 1 a lot. I think there was only one game where, admittedly, I played very aggressive. I went for Water Spout in front of those leads almost every time, and I think only once did I get punished for it. But yeah, the Landorus was just amazing, and the Overqwil backing that up into the Miraidon, because as long as you keep that speed matched, Gunk Shot is doing raw Gunk Shot about 80%, maybe a bit more, and then Terra Poison is just dropping those Miraidons, so it gives you a lot of options to go into it.
Yeah, so, that sounds like a really strong matchup spread. And of course, when you get into tournament, all that prep sort of goes out the window because you see your opponent's team and slightly different, right? So you of course you made it all the way to top 8. You had a heck of a run. Talk to me about your tournament run and some of the highlight matches that you played.
I think I have to talk about my one loss game, day 1, against Ryan. He was running very similar stuff to you. I said throughout the entire tournament, when it came to missing gunk shots and hydro pumps, if I missed my gunk shots, I still managed to win the set. But if I missed my hydro pumps, then I definitely did not. Against this team, it was the first time I'd seen kind of anything like it. I'd been expecting Smeargle, but I definitely wasn't expecting like Smeargle, Annihilate, Hard Room stuff. the Raging Bolt caused me some issues, but Hydro Pump in one of these games missed the Annihilate, I think two or three times, which put me out of the game one. And then game two, I don't think I definitely could have played better around the Spore, but getting unlucky with the Spore turns punished me really hard for not playing my Volcarona a bit better. Because like that's the whole reason it's there, stopping that Spore, getting the self burns, making sure that that doesn't overwhelm my team. And I think after the Hydro Pumps game one, I was more concerned with putting myself in a position where I didn't miss my moves than I was for covering the sleep. And that was kind of a good early tournament lesson that I took into the rest of it and made sure that that wasn't a mistake that I was going to repeat.
Mhm.
What else we got? Day one, Stephen Morioka, the Zamazenta. Between the Volcarona and the Terra Ghost on Kyogre, I consider myself having a pretty good matchup into Zamazenta. This was probably one of the closest sets that I had throughout the entire tournament. Zamazenta didn't cause me any concern at all, but Stephen played this team like really well and had me on the edge the whole time, like playing the double wide guard, meaning that I couldn't get like Kyogre into a good position to click spout and things. And the Urshi as well. He played that really well to cover the Terra Ghost on Kyogre, always making sure like if I was going to Terra Ghost to try to shut down the Zamazenta, the Urshi could then come in rain and get surging strikes onto the Terra Ghost Kyogre, which it really doesn't like taking. I feel like we've got to talk about our set as well.
Of course,
That
of course.
was because like it was 2-0, wasn't it?
It was not especially close, I don't think, but
Even with the 2-0 though, like I feel like one or two calls, if I like make a different call, it goes sideways very quickly because like
Mhm.
in that tournament you got a lot of experience going up against Kyogre. And then like when I saw the Electabuzz, I was like, I don't know if this is better or worse for me than the Raging Bolt version, but like the text that you had on the team, like I think I needed to absolutely nail those reads, otherwise it would have been a very different set.
Yeah. I remember turn one, you led Volcarona, Kyogre, and you Terra Ghosted your Kyogre and clicked Rage Powder to play around Final Gambit, and to play around Terra
Yep.
Grass Final Gambit. And I remember sitting there thinking, well, I can't actually click Final Gambit into that slot. But what if I was thinking about clicking Terra Grass Shadow Claw. I didn't do it, but yeah, it was like one of those games where I definitely felt on the back foot the entire time, but I also definitely had plays that could have swung the game on specific turns. They were just
Yeah.
hard reads to make. And you did not give me a ton of margins. You played it really well. And
Well, it's like, oh, sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
once you get one of those big water spouts off, or you hit a hydro pump, then I think it's just really hard for me to come back. So I don't get damage on Kyogre immediately. It's just really difficult for me.
Yeah, well, we saw it as well. Like, I think turn 2 or 3, I think I went for a Will-O-Wisp but didn't Rage Powder. And you Shadow Clawed the Terrid Kyogre, and it did over 50%. I was like, oh god. And I think that was the next turn was kind of the really pivotal turn because it was the call of, do you Terra Grass and Shadow Claw my Kyogre, or do you Terra Fire the Calyrex and as I Will-O-Wisp it? I think you went for the Terra Grass as I protected, and the Will-O-Wisp went into the Cali, and like that was a huge turn because like if that goes any differently for like there, I think that puts you in an insanely good position. And it was just those calls the whole set. Like even though it was a 2-0, like yeah, I think any of those calls and it changes a lot.
Mm-hmm. It was definitely a fun set. We ran into each other, I think, on the way to the bathroom, right before the round, and I was telling you about Electabuzz, and you were telling me about Overquill, so I knew it was coming, and I did not. I had time to think about it. I still didn't really figure out a good way to stop it, but yeah, it was great to have an experience against this team to talk about.
It happened a few times actually, like where before the round I'm chatting to people where we're talking about like some of the more odd things about our teams. Like I'd be talking about Overquill, they'd be talking about like Electabuzz, stuff like that. And then we'd look at our phones and be like, oh, Look at that. So it happened with you. It hadn't happened with Emilio as well. Like me and Emilio were just chatting about like the overcool and stuff, and then yeah. But when it comes to day two, oh god, the day two sets were amazing. They were some fun sets, some very strange sets as well. Like Z, a team that I felt really comfortable into running that Talonflame, Life Orb Talonflame, and Chien-Pao. Like the Life Orb Talonflame, like I ran that last NAIC. I know how much damage that can do, and like next to the Chien-Pao, it's dropping almost anything on the team, especially the Overquill, which was a real big problem for me. But I think the bigger problem was that Miraidon and Chien-Pao pinch any slot on my team with a Electro Drift Article Crash. Nothing on my team can really switch in or stay in to take both of those very comfortably at all, if just dropping. But then, like, the caliber of players that I versed in day two, like Emilio Forbes, World's Day 2, World's finalist, sorry. Edu, world champion, Fedecampo, like all these top Worlds players. My set against Fedecampo, I was waiting for that matchup the entire tournament. Cali Shadow, like, it's what the team is absolutely best into. And the set, I think, well, we were definitely the first set over. The way that his team is built is very Cali Shadow oriented. I need to set up the Cali. I need to like get the Cali going. Game one, he led Rillaboom Calyrex into Kyogre Overquill. He faked out the Overquill, went for a nasty plot on the Calyrex, and the Calyrex dropped to a Hydro Pump. And like after that, there wasn't really anything that could happen. And then game two, he led Incineroar Calyrex to get that Intimidate mitigation that I was talking about earlier onto the Overquill. And I had the Terra Ghost there. I didn't go for it. He went for the fake out onto the Kyogre, and he Terra Fairied the Calyrex. And that turn one, the Calyrex dropped to a -1 gunk shot, and the game was over. So, like, waiting to hit that matchup all day and hitting it, and like it just going as smoothly as that was perfect. Emilio, I played on the side stream. I think it was the only streamed set that I won all day. I lost both my sets on stream and another set on the side stream. But Emilio, like we had a 3-game set into the Terapagos stuff. Like it was super close. Game one, I was only just able to out damage a Screamtail endgame, which after using that last year, like it can be tough to go up against if you're stuck in the wrong position. But my Rillaboom was just able to finish that out. But then game 3 came down to Overcool versus Terapagos. And I was terrified about missing the gunk shots, so I tried to set it up so I could get the crunch. And I think the crunch was doing like 40 to 50% to Terapagos, and just, oh god, the Overquill absolutely won me that game. And considering I played Emilio back in 2019, and to this day, I don't think I've been beaten by someone the way that he beat me. I was over the moon to get that win, and then coming up against another Cali Ice team, the same as yours in the last round. After having faced it a few times in the tournament now, I was very prepared for it. Game 1 was super close. Game 2, they led Annihilate Raging Bolt. And I kind of went for a very aggressive play of just Tailwind Water Spout. And I did not get punished for it, and I took the Annihilate turn 1. As like Tailwind goes up and they Thunderbolted into the Tornadus, and yeah, it was just like from there, Kyogre and Overcool just were taking KOs, and then it was the stress of waiting to see if Overcool had made top 8.
Yeah, and you just barely bubbled in at a 12-3, just crazy to say 12-3, but yeah, you just barely got it at 12-3 at the 8 seed, and you got to play number 1 seed Edu in top 8. And of course, that set was also on stream. But you did say you've been prepping this matchup the entire time. So what happened from your perspective?
So when it comes to this team, I think the biggest struggle for my team is the Raging Bolt. My best way to hit it is gunk shots uh, from the Overcool. Game one, I was very underprepared for the Raging Bolt lead. I was expecting like Smeagol stuff, try to kind of mitigate and support the Calyrex, but he absolutely made the right call there, just going straight for let's shut down the Overquill, let's shut down the Kyogre. I think even when I terrored, his Rillaboom's Woodhammer did about, I think it was about 80%, which was huge. And after that, like everything was kind of being put into that special attack boosting Thunderclap range. Game two, I like to think I adjusted well for it. Getting that big damage onto the Raging Bolt turn one to put it into a Woodhammer range. But like Edu still just played that really well. Got us down to a position where we had to make a call on the final turn. Like, is there going to be a fake out? Do we Terra? Is there going to be a double protect? All that sort of thing. And I'm generally, I guess, not one to go for the double protect if I want to make the call. And I made the call. I made the call that the Calyrex would protect to try to see what I wanted to go for as the Rillaboom tries to snipe my Kyogre. So I went for the crunch into the Rillaboom, but unfortunately I got that wrong, and the Calyrex managed to get the KO onto the Overquill, and that put me out of it. But like Edu, like he's a friend, he's a phenomenal player. I was very much looking forward to seeing him try to take the whole thing, and I was there to cheer him on in top 4, but Patrick was like Aurelian beat him there, but like Patrick just annihilated that top cut. Like it was great to see.
Mm-hmm. It was really incredible. We just had the tub takes with Patrick, and we had a team report with Patrick that will come out, I think, before this video comes out, so people have seen it already. But yeah, it was really cool to see his run as well. But man, your run was maybe my favorite because your team was maybe my favorite of the entire tournament. Just like again, we talked about Overquill. I lost to Overquill. And I was like, I'm rooting for this the entire way. I need to see this win the tournament. And so I was really happy to see you make top cut with this team. Again, it's just so people look at this format and they look at, okay, yes, Edu did get top 4 with Fire, Water, Grass, Bolt, Calyrex, Shadow, and yes, Patrick won with Calyrex, Fire, Water, Grass. Like I get it, but also there is so much cool stuff that you can be doing in this format. There's so many cool bonds that have niches, especially in a one restricted format, and I always love seeing it. I love the creativity that you bring, and especially with the Overquill, just it made so much sense. It put in so much work all tournament. It sounds like. I'm so glad that you came on the channel to share your team and share how you built it, because it is just such a cool team.
It was so much fun, and like if you look at the top cut as well, like you've got myself with I think 4 unique Pokemon in top cut. I think I was the only Overquill, Tornadus, Landorus, and Volcarona.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Wo-Chien, you've got Iron Jugulus, there was a Screamtail, like there was so much diversity, so many cool teams as well, like stuff that we hadn't really seen before. Different sets on almost everything, like the 2 Kyogre in top cut. We had one that was really offensive Mystic Water, which is what I ran. You had the really bulky Assault Vest Kyogre that Shiliang and like Justin and them ran, which was also like really cool. I think it was triple or quad dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like quad dark in formats where like Terra Fairy, like fairy moves, like they're still pretty common, and like that sort of thing, being able to make it all the way, like yeah, it's been really cool seeing this format develop. We went into the format, people were going, oh, Miraidon, Calyrex, Shadow, like they're overhyped, they're not great. Then we see Rajan absolutely annihilate the field with Miraidon. We come to LA, we see yourself and Montana absolutely annihilating people with Cali Shadow and like really solidifying it as pretty much back on top. And then here, like we see the Cali Ice Trick Room stuff. Like I think this was its first big win in the format.
Cali Ice, yeah, first win.
Yeah, but like it was still relevant the whole time. You've got like Terapagos. This time I think it was Specs with screens, which did well, and like there were so many different variations of all these things. Like the meta's really developed and I think more nicely than we've had any of the other formats develop in such a short amount of time. And it makes me really excited to see what Worlds is going to bring, because like, can guarantee everyone is putting in a lot of work for it, trying to make the call of like what's going to be prevalent, what should I kind of do into that, and after that NAIC, I think there's a lot more things that people have to consider.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, especially we see you coming up with this super cool team 2 weeks after LA, where you brought a different restricted altogether, Lunala, Hard Trick Room. And on the other hand, I brought Caloric Shadow to LA. I brought a totally different team to this, and we both did pretty well. And it's cool to see that, like, and that now, especially with 2 months, right, and 2 months of cooking, I think we're going to see some really really cool stuff at Worlds, and I expect to see it from you specifically.
Well, yeah, no. Before NAIC, like, I took a big break before I came to America. So after playing Brisbane Regionals in November, like I got about half my invite when I was there, and then I went on a break for 6 months. I didn't play any Pokemon. I kind of wanted to focus on life, focus on a couple of other things. When I came to the US, if it wasn't for my partner Alyssa judging all these events, I probably would have just continued the break and not really played. But like, she's going to the events, I'm coming along, and there's nothing worse than going to a Pokemon tournament and not playing the tournament. I just couldn't. You can't resist that. So signed up. I played Orlando Regionals the same weekend that Perth was on. I managed to make day 2 at that, and then I had a bit of a rough day 2. Luck wasn't on my side, but I got a bit of a stomach issue for day 2, and I ended up dropping early. LA again, I made day 2 in a new format with Lunala, which was a lot of fun. I was kind of expecting like the Meteor Beam stuff to be a lot better, but I had a lot of fun with the Science Spam variant and like Ursaluna. Like, it was just so much fun. But again, like day 2, I didn't really do well. I think I went from 7-2 day 1 to I think 8-5, 8-6 at LA. And I definitely didn't want to repeat that performance for NAIC. I know one of my issues for those day 2 is that a lot of people put in their prep the night before, so once they see the teams that are in day 2. I've always been pretty relaxed about that and not really bothered looking into day 2 stuff, but I think this like kind of run of those 2 regionals plus NAIC showed me the importance of it, because for NAIC, like after day 1, like that night, I got some friends together and we chatted about like, oh, these are the teams in day 2, like what are some general game plans that we've got into it, what are we expecting to really come up against, and like that helped a lot. So just having those game plans in mind rather than having to stress about coming up with it on the spot day 2, and even if you're not going, okay, this is exactly what I want to do, just having a general game plan of like, try to focus this down, or this is definitely something I want to lead, was really important.
Mhm. Yep, having 5 minutes of thought into a matchup is so much better than having 90 seconds of thought when you get your team sheet. So, yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
But yeah, so again, super super cool team. Definitely recommend you try it out. We got the rental code on screen right now, and we'll have the paste in the description down below. Yeah, Henry, any final words or shout outs that you want to give?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got to give the shout out to my partner Alyssa. Like I said, if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't be going to. I wouldn't have gone to these tournaments this year, that's for sure. But like, she's always supported me when it comes to Pokemon, when it comes to visiting her in the US. Like, it's not something that I expected to be able to do a lot, but being able to come over here has been awesome. Big shout out to Meg. Meg is who asked me for the Kyo team initially, and what led me to running Overquill. She definitely helped convince me to run it for NAIC when I just lost confidence in being able to land my moves. Again, Lewis for running those matchups with me. All of Worms and like my friends on Discord that have just like stuck by me, because after taking a big break like that, like I know we've seen Wolf and a couple others take these breaks and come back and have amazing performances, but I wasn't really confident that I'd be able to do that after not touching the game so much for so long. But no, and like my family back in Australia have always been so supportive, and like the other Australians the ones that like always shoot me a message being like, "Oh, I'm seeing you on standings," or like, "Look, like we've got one of the Australians on stream," and stuff like that. Like it's amazing to see, and honestly, being able to get on stream and show that Australia is still around is really nice. So yeah, thank you to everyone who's supported me, everyone that's just tuned in to watch. Like it's been great.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on the channel again, and congratulations again on your incredible run at the North American Championships. And yeah, that's going to do it from us. But until next time, I will see you all later.